Section 26 of the Letters of Jane Austen. This LibriVox recording is in the public domain. Letter 60. Chawton, September 9th. My dear Anna, we have been very much amused by your 3 books, but I have a good many criticisms to make, more than you will like. We are not satisfied with Mrs. Forester settling herself as tenant and near neighbor to such a man as Sir Thomas, without having some other inducement to go there. She ought to have some friend living thereabouts to tempt her. A woman going with 2 girls just growing up into a neighborhood where she knows nobody but one man of not very good character is an awkwardness which so prudent a woman as Mrs. F. would not be likely to fall into. Remember, she is very prudent. You must not let her act so inconsistently. Give her a friend, and let that friend be invited by Sir Thomas H. to meet her, and we shall have no objection to her dining at the Priory as she does. But otherwise a woman in her situation would hardly go there before she has been visited by other families. I like the scene itself, the Miss Leslie, Lady Anne, and the music very much. Leslie is a noble name. Sir Thomas H. you always do very well. I have only taken the liberty of expunging one phrase of his which would not be allowable. Bless my heart! It is too familiar and inelegant. Your grandmother is more disturbed at Mrs. Forester's not returning the Egertons' visit sooner than by anything else. They ought to have called at the parsonage before Sunday. You describe a sweet place, but your descriptions are often more minute than will be liked. You give too many particulars of right hand and left. Mrs. Forester is not careful enough of Susan's health. Susan ought not to be walking out so soon after heavy rains, taking long walks in the dirt. An anxious mother would not suffer it. I like your Susan very much. She is a sweet creature. Her playfulness of fancy is very delightful. I like her as she is now exceedingly, but I am not quite so well satisfied with her behavior to George R. At first she seems all over attachment and feeling, and afterwards to have none at all. She is so extremely confused at the ball, and so well satisfied apparently with Mr. Morgan. She seems to have changed her character. You are now collecting your people delightfully, getting them exactly into such a spot as is the delight of my life. 3 or 4 families in a country village is the very thing to work on, and I hope you will do a great deal more, and make full use of them while they are so very favorably arranged. You are but now coming to the heart and beauty of your story. Until the heroine grows up the fun must be imperfect, but I expect a great deal of entertainment from the next 3 or 4 books, and I hope you will not resent these remarks by sending me no more. We like the Egertons very well. We see no blue pantaloons or cocks or hens. There is nothing to enchant one certainly in Mr. L., but we make no objection to him, and his inclination to like Susan is pleasing. The sister is a good contrast, but the name of Rachel is as much as I can bear. They are not so much like the Papillons as I expected. Your last chapter is very entertaining, the conversation on genius, etc. Mr. St. Julian and Susan both talk in character, and very well. In some former parts, Cecilia is perhaps a little too solemn and good, but upon the whole her disposition is very well opposed to Susan's. Her want of imagination is very natural. I wish you could make Mrs. Forester talk more, but she must be difficult to manage and make entertaining, because there is so much good sense and propriety about her that nothing can be made very broad. Her economy and her ambition must not be staring. The papers left by Mrs. Fisher are very good. Of course one guesses something. I hope when you have written a great deal more you will be equal to scratching out some of the past. The scene with Mrs. Mellish I should condemn. It is prosy and nothing to the purpose, and indeed the more you can find in your heart to curtail between Dawlish and Newton Priors, the better I think it will be. One does not care for girls until they are grown up. Your Aunt C. quite understands the exquisiteness of that name. Newton Priors is really a nonpareil. Milton would have given his eyes to have thought of it. Is not the cottage taken from Tollard Royal? Thus far the letter was written on the 9th, but before it was finished, news arrived at Chawton of the death of Mrs. Charles Austen. She died in her confinement, and the baby died also. She left 3 little girls, Cassy, Harriet, and Fanny. It was not until the 18th that Jane resumed her letter as follows: Sunday. I am very glad, dear Anna, that I wrote as I did before this sad event occurred. I have only to add that your grandmamma does not seem the worse now for the shock. I shall be very happy to receive more of your work if more is ready, and you write so fast that I have great hopes Mr. Digweed will come back freighted with such a cargo as not all his hops or his sheep could equal the value of. Your grandmamma desires me to say that she will have finished your shoes to morrow, and thinks they will look very well, and that she depends upon seeing you, as you promise, before you quit the country, and hopes you will give her more than a day. Yours affectionately, J. Austen. Letter 61. Chawton, Wednesday, September 28. My dear Anna, I hope you do not depend on having your book again immediately. I kept it that your grandmamma may hear it, for it has not been possible yet to have any public reading. I have read it to your Aunt Cassandra, however, in our own room at night, while we undressed, and with a great deal of pleasure. We like the first chapter extremely, with only a little doubt whether Lady Helena is not almost too foolish. The matrimonial dialogue is very good, certainly. I like Susan as well as ever, and begin now not to care at all about Cecilia. She may stay at Easton Court as long as she likes. Henry Mellish will, I am afraid, be too much in the common novel style, a handsome, amiable, unexceptionable young man, such as do not much abound in real life, desperately in love, and all in vain. But I have no business to judge him so early. Jane Egerton is a very natural, comprehensible girl, and the whole of her acquaintance with Susan and Susan's letter to Cecilia are very pleasing and quite in character. But Miss Egerton does not entirely satisfy us. She is too formal and solemn, we think, in her advice to her brother not to fall in love, and it is hardly like a sensible woman. It is putting it into his head. We should like a few hints from her better. We feel really obliged to you for introducing a Lady Kenrick. It will remove the greatest fault in the work, and I give you credit for considerable forbearance as an author in adopting so much of our opinion. I expect high fun about Mrs. Fisher and Sir Thomas. You have been perfectly right in telling Ben Lefroy of your work, and I am very glad to hear how much he likes it. His encouragement and approbation must be quite beyond everything. I do not at all wonder at his not expecting to like anybody so well as Cecilia at first, but I shall be surprised if he does not become a Susanite in time. Devereux Foster's being ruined by his vanity is extremely good, but I wish you would not let him plunge into a vortex of dissipation. I do not object to the thing, but I cannot bear the expression. It is such a thorough novel slang, and so old that I dare say Adam met with it in the first novel he opened. Indeed, I did very much like to know Ben's opinion. I hope he will continue to be pleased with it, and I think he must, but I cannot flatter him with there being much incident. We have no great right to wonder at his not valuing the name of Progillian. That is a source of delight which even he can hardly be quite competent to. Walter Scott has no business to write novels, especially good ones. It is not fair. He has fame and profit enough as a poet, and should not be taking the bread out of the mouths of other people. I do not like him, and I do not mean to like Waverley if I can help it, but fear I must. I am quite determined, however, not to be pleased with Mrs. West's Alicia de Lacy, should I ever meet with it, which I hope I shall not. I think I can be stout against anything written by Mrs. West. I have made up my mind to like no novels really but Miss Edgeworth's, yours, and my own. What can you do with Egerton to increase the interest for him? I wish you could contrive something, some family occurrence to bring out his good qualities more, some distress among brothers and sisters to relieve by the sale of his curacy, something to carry him mysteriously away, and then be heard of at York or Edinburgh in an old greatcoat. I would not seriously recommend anything improbable, but if you could invent something spirited for him, it would have a good effect. He might lend all his money to Captain Morris, but then he would be a great fool if he did. Cannot the Morrises quarrel, and he reconcile them? Excuse the liberty I take in these suggestions. Your Aunt Frank's nursemaid has just given her warning, but whether she is worth your having, or would take your place, I know not. She was Mrs. Webb's maid before she went to the great house. She leaves your aunt because she could not agree with the other servants. She is in love with the man, and her head seems rather turned. He returns her affection, but she fancies every one else is wanting him and envying her. Her previous service must have fitted her for such a place as yours, and she is very active and cleanly. The Webbs are really gone. When I saw the wagons at the door, and thought of all the trouble they must have in moving, I began to reproach myself for not having liked them better; but since the wagons have disappeared, my conscience has been closed again, and I am excessively glad they are gone. I am very fond of Sherlock's sermons, and prefer them to almost any. Your affectionate aunt, J. Austen. If you wish me to speak to the maid, let me know. End of Section 26.